back to it.
All right, take two. Welcome back, guys. It's 2022, and this is our second recording of the first episode of Wilson Time. We made it through about 30 seconds the first time, and we're back to it again.
Yeah,
So
man. This
perfect.
technology thing, man. It's so hard to figure out. Last year we couldn't figure out how to record anything, so that's partially why we didn't end up recording any episodes. I think maybe one,
Yes. Yes. Good
but
thing I work in telecommunications because this really looks good on my resume. But besides that, welcome back to Wilson Time. And with that, welcome Dizzle on joining DVFFL.
yes,
So we have a
welcome
new
Dizzle.
new name, new face,
Can't
high
wait to shit on you, bud.
expectations. Yeah. I say it wouldn't be too far fetched to say that Derek Carr goes to his team. Obviously, Go Nation. But yeah,
Yeah,
so if anybody doesn't know, Dizzle is a huge Raiders fan. So we'll probably be seeing his Raiders Sherpa make an appearance while he's at the draft.
make sure to be bidding up those Raiders players out there when we're drafting.
Yeah.
Teach them a
But
lesson.
yeah, no, super exciting. So Dizzle obviously really was looking forward to joining the league, and obviously with unforeseen circumstances and stuff like that, we were able to get him in here. And now, you know, we couldn't really ask for somebody that would be more, cohesive in the group than Dizzle because
Yeah.
obviously he's already around most of us all the time. So for everybody
No,
who's going to meet him for the first time, it should be a good time.
yeah, no, for obviously with the circumstances and everything, it's always exciting though to get a new member in, add a different dynamic. Not really sure how he's gonna draft. Um, Obviously we know the players he likes and everything based off his team,
Mhm.
but yeah, no, I'm excited. Again, the league's always ever evolving. Here we are, 2022. I mean, what 11 years in this league, and it seems like things are new every single year. So should be a good
Yeah.
time.
For sure. And I think I think with everything that happened and all that good stuff, I'm thinking that everybody did a really good job. Everybody had their own point of view. We expressed our feelings and our thoughts and everything like that. Obviously sad to see Map go, and maybe he'll be back next year. So but we're looking forward to this year. So this year we're going to Prineville, good old Eastern Oregon.
Yeah.
Um,
Out in the
you know,
boonies again.
yeah,
Kind of
going to
like
the
taking us back.
boonies.
It's like taking us back to our roots, those Roseburg roots where we draft down the countryside. Kind of seems fitting for us.
I think, yeah, we had to get out of the city for a little bit. We had, Austin, Palm Springs, things like that. We had to low key this year. We had to stay low this year.
Yeah,
So,
we're
uh,
laying low
yes,
because
for
that's
sure.
we know how to do that really well.
So a couple of just a couple different things to go over. Like, let's see what are we looking for this year? What to watch for, essentially. So I got a couple different things here, Dylan. Let's see your opinion. Let's hear what your thoughts are on it. But first off, um, obviously Cody Sacco again keeping it down in the
What's
Southern
new?
California. Yeah. But Cody is also looking to match the record for most consecutive losing seasons, held by Brian at 5. Right now, Cody's at 4, and so this year he has the ability to tie Brian. How do you feel about that?
Um, as far as it happening, pretty good. I mean, I think everybody would agree with it, and I think even Cody would agree with it that based off his track record over the last few years, I mean, he hasn't really done anything to improve his odds of, getting away from a losing record. So, yeah, I mean, until he shows anything different, and it's crazy too. I mean, I know like we've talked about it as a group, and the pod least touched on it, but Cody's also had a decent amount of money in these auction drafts since we've been doing it, and still can't seem to pull together a winning season. Now, I'm not even talking, we're not talking championship or anything. We're just talking a winning record. So it's pretty
Yeah.
incredible. But if there's anybody that can do it, it's the big man himself.
Yeah, I'm surprised that Cody kind of hasn't put up a vote there to get it back to the snake draft era because the auction draft has not done him good. But um, also just staying with Cody because I got a couple different points here, and we're looking at the big man for a lot of different reasons this year. He's also going for a Sacco three-peat,
Oh
so
my
this could
God.
be the most historic, um, you know, really like shitty accomplishment in DVFL history. Obviously, we've seen back-to-back championships, kudos. But now we're looking at a Sacco three-peat. But like you just said, touching base on it, like really, there's nothing that Cody's done that would change anything. And this year, he's starting out with even less draft cash. So if he couldn't do a lot with a lot of draft cash, who's to say anything is going to be different this year?
No, I'm very much concerned for COD. I mean, yeah, it's a feat in itself to get two Sackos in a row. But a three-peat, like I just don't know how you come back from that. We talk
Yeah,
about Cody has his one championship under his belt. Kudos to Cliffy there, but it's like, dude, you get that three-peat, that championship is null and void. I mean, it's gone, man. Like, there's no way
yeah.
you're coming back from that.
Yeah, there's very few things that I think can cancel out a championship, and you know, a three-peat in the Sacco. It's just not been a good run for Cody for a long time here, and that brings me to my next point. Cody is also looking to match the longest playoff drought in DBFL history, which is also held by Brian at 5 seasons. Now, I want to touch base on this a little bit, though. Yes, Brian's name's been brought up in a couple of these, but Brian's turned things around, right? Brian's had good teams, and even last year, right? We all gave Brian a hard time about his draft. He was drafting the young guys, drafting Kyle Pitts early, things like that.
Oh yeah.
Didn't have a lot of money. But guess what? You know, we're saying Brian's name in this, but Brian's grown a lot in this league, and he's been around the whole time. And I think that there's something to say here is that you can turn it around. So maybe this is the year that Cody turns it around. You never know. But yeah, so he's looking to match the longest playoff drought, which is still another tough feat that works against them. And this is his historical analysis when you look into like the nut report and stuff like that.
It's funny because we talk about playing fantasy football is like one of the biggest things for us is just fun, right? That's like we enjoy doing it, but I just couldn't imagine having all these accolades that Cody could accrue, and it's like, are you even having fun at that point? It's like, how many psycho punishments can one man endure? Like, is he gonna
Yes,
stick around after this?
it's like a yearly hazing. But
I
okay,
know.
let's go to a little bit higher of a note. So this one, not much to talk on and talk on to. Obviously, Nut does a great job with the Nut Report. This man is an analysis guru. He crunches the numbers, but he's looking to continue his playoff success of 12 straight seasons of making the playoffs. That is unheard of. Obviously,
Yeah.
that's something that you don't see very often, and we've never seen it before because we really haven't seen Nut outside of the playoffs. So it's basically an anomaly not seeing him there. Um, but yeah, there's not much to really say, right? The man does his homework, he drafts good, and he continuously works hard throughout the season when it comes to free agents, trades, things like that. And he has a couple good keepers that he can choose from this year. So I think the success will probably prevail.
Yeah. No, I would say probably the most savvy player in our league. And I mean, yeah, no, kudos to Nut. He does put in the work. He's put in an OT to get our website, the statistics, everything crunched up for us. So it's pretty amazing that he can do that. Um, it's kind of like death, taxes, and Nut in the playoffs. It's hopefully, we can knock him
Yeah.
out of that. Like, I kind of want to see it happen, but at the same time, I'd rather, Nut kind of slip out of there a little bit and give some other guys a fighting chance.
Yeah, you want him to kind of fall there a little bit. Garrett got a nice taste of that because obviously
Yeah,
he was in the playoffs last year.
needs a little slice of
Um,
humble pie.
exactly. But then also more scoring. Are we gonna have more scoring this year? Last year it was the highest points per game average ever, 90 points per game, which is really good because even some of the people that weren't finishing high in the league, they were still scoring a decent amount of points. We'll usually see somebody that's the high 60s, low 70s, things like that. But everybody was pretty well up there. And also, there was unprecedented wide receiver numbers last year. Um,
Yeah,
but on
that
top of
Jaden
that, it
theme, that
was
was
also,
crazy.
yeah, it was also probably one of the most competitive as well because when you look at it, not only was there a lot of scoring, but it was also very, very competitive when it came down to uh, not necessarily just the regular season, but also playoffs, just getting into the playoffs too.
Yeah, no, it was a battle towards the end. And I think it's a testament to our league, right? Is that every year that we go through this, we become more competitive. People are putting up more points. And it just shows that people are putting in that work when we go into it. And it's a continuous grind too, right? Throughout the season. So,
Yeah.
no, I mean, who knows? I mean, 90 points per game. I think we could even probably surpass that just based off the knowledge and experience everybody has now at this point.
Yeah, no, for sure. So those are the things we're looking forward to the most, and obviously some of those are bad and some of those are good. So,
Definitely keep
but
an eye on that COD.
definitely a season for events to occur and for us to look back and possibly see history made. Next segment, let's talk about keepers. So, who should they keep and why would they keep them essentially? So, we're going to go through everybody's teams here essentially and just talk about a couple of the keepers. Some people have only one keeper that we could even think of that they would possibly keep on their squad. And then some have multiple. So, I'll start off and let's go Cody. So, we're just going to go from last standings all the way to the champion, obviously Jesse. But Cody, starting out with $199 in draft cash. He has three. He has really three options. You're looking at $4 for Christian Kirk. We're looking at Cam Akers for 10 and Dalton Schultz for 10. So three guys right there. One that's looking to prove himself. The other one that could be an RB1, and the other guy, Dalton Schultz, who was a breakout last year at tight end. Who do you think COD should keep, and why would they keep? Why would he keep him?
I mean, if he's looking at Christian Kirk like the Jacksonville Jaguars, yeah, maybe you keep him for $4. It could be good value there, but I just don't really, until Trevor Lawrence really comes out and starts proving himself. I mean, I think it should be a no-brainer for COD. I'd go Cam Akers, $10.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, there's like obviously it's kind of hard to tell with the injuries that Cam Akers has had, and then you got Darrell Henderson, your boy, hanging out
Yeah,
behind him there. So there's a little bit of risk involved, but Cam Akers, $10. I mean, I don't think you could get him. Like, I really don't think you can get him any cheaper than that. So, and Dalton Schultz, like, he's a Cowboy, he's one of our boys, but am I going to keep him for the same price I could get possibly for an RB1? No, like, let's not. Cody, don't overthink this, man. You know what to do.
yeah. It's pretty simple. Hey, Dylan, can you pause it? Who you start with? Now you go with Brandon.
Yeah, so next up we have B Johns. So starting with $250 draft cash, and really the only one that would make sense for him is B Cooks for $12 there.
Yeah.
Keep,
No, when
don't
you look
keep.
yeah, essentially, keep them, right? Like wide receiver two. You know, obviously the only guy you kind of rely on in that whole entire offense. Davis Mills, second season, typically make that jump a little bit. Davis
General
Mills isn't
Mills.
like yeah, it's not Joe Burrow or anything like that. But like you're looking at like one person really. You have Nico Collins on the other side, but really is anything going to change? Cooks is always going to get 1,000 yards. And we get more touchdowns, then $12 could be a value. And like I said, it could be wide receiver two or your flex play every. And he has $250 draft cash. You get a flex player or a wide receiver two with and only drop $12 for that. He still has plenty of other cash to spend spend on other players, obviously. So yeah, Cooks is the only one I see there, and
Yeah,
makes sense.
no, I
Um,
agree.
yeah, so let's go to the next one, and this one is you. So, this should be fun. Give us a reason why you, starting out with $242 draft cash, decided to trade for Ja'Marr Chase. Obviously, I think it kind of everybody can think for themselves on this. But what are you looking most forward to with Ja'Marr Chase?
Obviously, I mean, after his rookie season there, he just blew up, and just going off projections for this year and everything, it was kind of interesting because when everybody started throwing out the keepers, people trying to deal them out and stuff, sitting there, I had $250 starting off with, and I was just thinking, if I made an offer for Ja'Marr, probably still get him out of value, which I am, and for Jaden it worked out too because what are you gonna do? It's like you got Justin Jefferson, he gets to keep still for $12. So
Yeah,
I mean, kind of a
for
no-brainer
sure.
for Jaden just to keep me a little more draft cash. And for me, I mean, a lot of like ranking systems out there and sites are saying like Jamar's gonna be like top three. I'd be happy if he's just top five. So really, I'm just banking on that. The one thing that I really did bite me in the ass though, and definitely kicking myself is and a nut called me out afterwards. It was dropping all my players, and I think I told this to a couple people, but yeah, I was so stoked to get Ja'Marr and I just got like roaring high right after I got him, and I was just talking that shit to everybody in my house. And I was like, I don't need any of these players. So I just started dropping them all. And I was like, oh, wait, I could have traded some, maybe got some money back. But here we are. So hopefully no injuries, please.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Jamar Chase, yeah, obviously, I think wide receiver, you know, five or higher lock. So I would say like you're probably going to be just fine with him, obviously. So
Yeah. No. Yeah. So obviously you guys know I'm keeping, but the next up is Shimer. And so his is a little more interesting if you look at it. Got $171 draft cash to start with. You're looking at Elijah Moore for $8, Gabriel Davis for 4, Rashad Bateman for 2, or you got J.K. Dobby Dobbins for $10.
yeah, this is a little bit tough one here. The one thing I would say here is I kind of when I looked at it, and I was looking at the keeper report and everything like that. $171 draft cash, so not a lot of draft cash, obviously, right there in the mid pack. Some people are at 150, some people are at 250, so he's right at the very bottom down there. I was looking at it, J.K. Dobbins might not even play for, a good, not even like they were talking about not even seeing him for the first 4 weeks.
Yeah, it's so
So,
murky his situation.
yeah. And the one thing I was looking at was just kind of like, yeah, you could keep J.K. Dobbins for like $10, right? But also at the same time, like then you're eating up $10 of your draft cash, and then you have somebody like Gabriel Davis here. Elijah Moore, I don't think so. I don't know what that offense is going to look like, especially if it has Joe Flacco or even Zach Wilson. Just don't trust any of that whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
Rashad Bateman's a good one, but right, like if I'm looking at this, I'm looking at Gabriel Davis or Dobbins, and I think Gabriel Davis, that would, all the hype's on him in the offseason. Like this man scored 4 touchdowns in the playoffs last year. Now he's the number 2. They talk about there's 100 and almost 150 targets out there from Cole Beasley and Emmanuel Sanders leaving that are just need to be made up. And I think at $4, you could be really looking at somebody, they project him 10 plus touchdowns this year. And I think that he might clips at least 1,000 yards. Like you're looking at a true wide receiver 2 right there, wide receiver 3, and you don't have any doubts, right? Like Josh Allen, he eats. Like that man's just gonna feed the
Yeah.
rock. And then you look at J.K. Dobbins, and they got like the whole slew of their people back this year.
You got your boy Mike Davis back there too, or my boy, I mean.
And
It's hard to tell.
I think for that reason, I would probably go with Gabriel Davis, and because it's really cheap. You're looking at wide receiver 2 on one of the highest scoring offenses, and he's only $4, and you're working with 171. So why not just keep as much draft cash as you can and go for the guy with a really high upside instead of wasting $10 on somebody that you might not see until like week 6 of the year?
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I think Gabe Davis for $4, especially how much the Bills throw. I think they're like, if not the pass happiest, I think they are the pass happiest team
I
in
think
the league.
besides the Buccaneers, because I think Tom Brady like obviously clips like the passing,
Yeah,
pass attempts
regardless
record,
though,
but
they're up there.
yeah,
But I don't know, man. If I'm looking at it, I got $171 going into the season. You got Rashad Bateman, $2 there next year. You got to keep him for 4. It's tough to pass it up because Rashad definitely flash potential, and they usually say like the wide receivers. I think it's year 3 that they really break out. But I mean, you think about it, Marquise Brown is gone now. We just got Mark Andrews out there. I mean, I don't know who else Lamar's going to throw the ball to. It's just
Devin Duvernay.
yeah, but it's just like how much are they going to throw the ball? Because they're like the run heaviest team in the league. So
Yeah, exactly.
it's
You're kind of
tough.
looking at like two different spectrums there, right? Gabriel Davis, one of the pass happiest, and you're looking at like Rashad Bateman in like the most run happy one. So
Hmm.
it's like a $2 difference. It's like you're obviously going to go with the guy that is going to
Yeah.
see the more targets.
No, it's tough, but I mean, Brown's got some decisions to make, but at least I'd say no matter which way he goes, he kind of set himself up for success.
Yeah, for sure. And last year I swooped up. It, I think like Chimer did a really good job last year because, like I said, we gave him a lot of shit and everything, but he swooped up a lot of young guys, people that could be going potentially into the breakout season. So I think this is what set him up for having a good keeper stash was because he drafted so young last year. Um, but yeah, so he's definitely got a decision to make. I would go Gabriel Davis, but J.K. Dobbins, I wouldn't be surprised if he took him as well.
Yeah.
Now we go to Gare. So Gare here, $158 in draft cash. And he's got two options. And obviously, I think because he made the trade for Deebo Samuel, we probably can make it solidified that he's probably going to keep Deebo. But then you also have Cordero Patterson at $2. What are your thoughts on this? I think Patterson, that is a luxury for Patterson, but at the same time, it's Deebo Samuel.
Yeah, I mean, did he call him Professor Preach last year? Cordero. I think that was his nickname. By the way, fuck that dude. If Mike Davis was supposed to get that role, but we're beyond that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Garrett's indication is trading for Deebo there. I mean, I don't know why you would make the trade and not keep him. Though it was interesting, after that did happen, I'm like, man, Cordero, $2. From what I've heard, it doesn't really sound like there's any competition that's really like creeping up Cordero's ass over there in Atlanta.
They have nothing down there. It's actually pretty
Yeah.
ridiculous.
So, and I mean, he killed it last year, but
yeah,
nobody was expecting it. But again, you don't make that trade for Deebo and not keep him. And yeah, I mean, it's not, it's good keeper value on Deebo too. Leaves Garrett with what,
yeah, for sure.
$140, I think, after that. I mean, it's still pretty tight to work with, but still.
Yeah, for sure. Who's next?
Looks like Pate's up next. So $172 draft cash. He's got Staff Daddy at $10, DeAndre Swift at 28, and my boy Tony Pollard at 12.
Yeah. Obviously, I think Stafford $10. That's a good deal, but this one's pretty simple to me. It's DeAndre Swift, $28.
Yeah.
Bell cow is super efficient in the pass game. The dude was like on a tear through the first 12 weeks last year before he kind of got that shoulder injury and everything like that. And just everything you hear about it is just like there's no efficiency behind him with Jamal Williams. So he's just going to get the bulk of the carries. They're probably going to pass it more. All you hear is this praise, especially if you watch Hard Knocks and stuff like that on the new offensive line that they've been building through the draft. So they expect that offense to be even better than it was before, even with Jared Goff there. And, but Jared Goff loves dumping it down to DeAndre Swift. So for me, it's a no-brainer with this one. $28. You're keeping an RB1 for $28.
Yeah, I would have to agree. I do love Tony Pollard. I think he's incredible talent. It's just one, I mean, Tyron Smith going out on the Cowboys offensive line. I don't know what that offensive line is going to look like now. As much as I want to believe that they're going to be solid as usual, but it's looking kind of tough there. And you still got Zeke. So yeah, I don't see why you wouldn't go DeAndre Swift, walk in that RB1 and move on with your draft.
And then let's go Cal. So Cal is $150 in draft cash. Surprise. He likes to spend that money during the season.
Thanks for the money, buddy.
He's got really two guys to look at here. And I think either one of them actually is super good. You're looking at Mike Williams, who was shredding it at the beginning of last year.
Oh, yeah.
For $18. And then you have Tom Brady, who literally, every year you can almost count on him to have at least 4,500 plus passing yards. He's had 80 touchdowns the last 2 years combined. Like, $14 for Tom Brady. That's a great deal. Who are you thinking here? Mike Williams, who could have, hopefully this is his breakout year, and then Tom Brady for 14.
I thought it was interesting because I saw the NFL top 100, voted by the players, and it's pretty crazy that Tom Brady was voted number one at like this point in his career. I'm like, God damn, this man, just a machine. But I mean, based off of like how we draft and everything, it's like I feel like you got to walk in the premium positions with the better value. And you look at Mike Williams for $18. There's no way you're going to get him that cheap. Herbert's just going to continue to get better and better. Yeah, so I mean, I love my boy. Drop the Mike Williams. Got to get him in there.
Yeah, for sure. And then I think I'm next,
You're
right?
up next. So what about $250 draft cash? Got that T. Higgy, $4. We already know what you're doing. You keeping him. What's your expectations for him though?
I think Joe Burrow took a huge leap last year, and I love this because I still made the playoffs last year, and I remember I sold off my whole squad, but I remember there was one thing that I wanted was somebody back in return I could get with a keeper, and T. Higgins just lit it up last year. It was a little salty because in the playoffs, the first game of playoffs, I didn't score very much, and then literally the next two games, T. Higgins went off for like I think one game was like 35, and the next was like a stupid amount of points and everything like that. But it was just kind of showing me like what I am expecting. And so for me, $4 for T Higgins, wide receiver two on the Bengals offense, which is probably going to be one of the higher scoring offenses again. I'm all about it. So, and I'm starting with 250, so I'm going to go into the draft with 246.
Yeah.
Completely fine. Love me some T Higgy. I'm getting Higgy with it.
No, you definitely set yourself up nice. So can't argue that.
Yeah. I say yeah to I say to Wilson's we have Jamar Chase and T Higgins. So I guess we're Bengals fans this year.
Big Bengals guys.
Yeah. So now to the next one. Like this one, I don't really know if we even need to really talk much onto it, but it's Jaden. $208 in draft cash, and obviously Justin Jefferson $12. He's going to keep him for at least 2 more years after this. So it's just kind of like at this point, it's just a lock.
Wait,
like obviously
we only keep 3 years, right? I think this is going to be a second year. So I think
is it a 3 year? Is it a 3 year limit?
I'm pretty sure it's 3 year limit.
If it's a 3 year limit, then yeah, he'll keep him.
Thank God.
Next year and to be done. Yeah.
Yeah, literally. I'm so jealous of Jaden just gets to keep reaping those benefits. It's like, I mean,
yeah.
Probably. I mean, we'll touch on Jesse in a little bit, but that's probably the best keeper we've had so far. Coming through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, good on you, Jaden. But yeah, next we got Nut, $170 draft cash. So he made the trade for Herbert last year, and so right now you could either keep Herbert $20, Dallas Goedert $6, Cole Kmet $2, or our new member's favorite, well, one of his favorite wide receivers, Hunter Renfrow for $10.
Yeah, I was gonna say I thought Henry Ruggs was his favorite.
Yeah. Well, he can keep Henry Ruggs.
Nice little crude joke there. Yeah, so this one it's tight too. I Nut loves himself some Herbert, so I wouldn't disagree. Like Herbert for $20, I still think like obviously with quarterbacks and everything like that, you could see the possibility of not waiting a little bit longer, get somebody like Matthew Stafford or Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers for less, and still have really good fantasy output with those guys. And Herbert at 20, that means you're right up there with the top tiers of running. I mean, a quarterback. So, but Dallas Goedert for $6, that's a good one too. Cole Kmet for $2. He's supposed to be primed for a breakout year. I love me some Renfrow. So I don't know if you guys saw the interview with Derwin James, but Derwin James obviously just got paid by the Chargers, right? Top paid safety in the league. They're asking him the best wide receivers, and he was putting out there, and Hunter Renfrow was one of them. He said top wide receivers in the league. He said he was talking to like Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, all these guys, and he says Hunter Renfrow.
That's crazy.
And yeah, and it was crazy. But you look at it, the guy was like amazing last year. If we play PPR, then like this guy would be like, he was top 15 PPR wise.
When I look at Renfrow play, he's got shades of Cooper Kupp written all over him. I mean, the way
he's like Cooper Kupp in a Wes Welker body.
Yeah, in a Wes Welker body, exactly, like a Julian Edelman kind of thing too. It's just like he's one of those guys where when he breaks off the line, it's like it's so hard to cover him. He's got a bag of tricks there. I don't know. It's like you're looking at Herbert $20, that brings Nut down to 150. And again, it's just like how much do you put a price on QBs and everything? I think that's just everybody's got their own perspective on it. But you look at like Dallas Goedert for $6. I think they put him up there in the top tiers of tight ends, and so it's like, do you want to walk down the tight end? Would you rather have that top 5 QB, or maybe even go with the Renfrow? I don't know.
For me, a lot of everybody here will probably say Herbert, but I like Renfrow. For one, the reason why I like Renfrow is just like the dude is like really good at everything. He's good at catching. He's good at route running. He caught a decent amount of touchdowns last year and everything like that. When you look at this, right? Yeah, you take Herbert, you drop down to 150 in draft cash. You don't really have much money there going for wide receivers and running backs. Yeah, it's obviously a $10 price difference, but $10 can make up a lot, right?
Oh yeah, totally.
So I think he can go either way. I wouldn't be surprised if he went multiple ways. He probably wouldn't even go Renfrow. It's probably just my opinion, and I think that it's a good deal because Renfrow is going to go more than $10. I tell you right now, I would go more than $10 for Renfrow. So,
I don't
um,
know. I kind of like the Goddard one, to be honest with you. It's like, I mean, I don't, everybody knows I don't really put a price, like a high price on tight ends and everything, but it's just like, can Jalen Hurts fucking hit him? Can he get the ball to him and everything?
yeah,
And I guess now you have
no,
AJ Brown, so it's kind of tough. But yeah, I don't
I
think I
think
would do the Herbert one.
I think there's plenty of options there, and obviously everybody has their own opinions, and that's going to actually choose one, and we'll see which one it is,
Yeah,
and we'll see if it was one of the ones we talked about. Next one we're looking at is Caden, $183 in draft cash. He's looking at Pat Fryer Muth. We're
Moose.
looking at Jalen Hurts for 14, and we're looking for Elijah Mitchell at 10. So these ones are actually really good, and the reason why I'm going to couple different things out there. Jalen Hurts is a dark horse to win MVP this year. Boomer Sooner. Pat Fryermuth had one of the best rookie years for a tight end ever. And, maybe Kenny Pickett this year, Mitchell Trubisky. Obviously, we know what Ben Roethlisberger was last year, and he was not good. And then Elijah Mitchell, who's going to be the number one running back on one of the number one rushing offenses in the league. And he was an amazing pickup last year, free agent wise. So, who do you think Fresh goes with this year? What do you think? What would be
Oh,
your option that you would go with?
yeah. I mean, this one's tough. I really like Hurts for $14. I mean, you're not going to get Hurts for cheaper than that, and I mean, there is a potential. I mean, he could finish as number one QB, depending on how he plays. But Elijah Mitchell, $10. It's also really solid value on him as well. The one thing that concerns me with Elijah Mitchell is one, he was banged up at the end of last year, and he's already banged up again going into this year. But two, it's just Kyle Shanahan. I mean, they have like a rotating, it's like Elijah Mitchell was getting a lot of the carries last year, but it's just like it's so hard to predict with them because now I'm seeing stuff come out of camp for the 49ers and they're like, well, Trey Sermon's looking amazing out there. My freaking boy, Preacher Sermon. And it's like, where the hell is he coming from now all of a sudden? You still got
Right.
Jeff Wilson chilling back there. You got the rookie. It's like, I don't know, man. Could you start off the season and all of a sudden it's like the rookie? I don't remember his name, but is he getting, first crack at it? We'll see. But
Yeah, I
I
did.
think
I
that,
like to mix it up a little bit.
yeah, I mean, I would have to go Hurts. I feel like if you want to set your team up with like a solid foundation, if you can get Hurts at a good value like that and still send on a decent amount of draft cash after that, um,
Yeah.
you know, I'd go with that.
I
But
also know. I also know Fresh, and this man is like literally in love with Hurts, so I wouldn't be
mhm,
surprised.
mhm.
So, all right. So Hurts for Fresh, and then on to the next. Who's the next one?
We got Gobby up with $199 in draft cash. And you're looking at Justin Fields for $4, Travis Etienne for $10, Jalen Waddle for 16, or got his boy Mr. Rogers for $12.
Yeah, he's got a lot. I say these are all potentially very good. Um, well, let's just like go down the list, and I'll take away the ones that I don't think would make the most sense. Okay, Jalen Waddle, I would take that off the list. $16. Tyreek Hill is going to eat up a lot of the passing game, and I think $16. Obviously, I think it's still a good value for Jalen Waddle, but I think you might be able to pick up somebody with the same amount of production and value for probably a little bit less, or even around the same amount. So when you're looking at this, Travis Etienne, love the guy, but I think James Robinson is still there. But it really depends. Like I don't know, I haven't really seen enough out of Travis Etienne to even know what's actually going to happen.
Coming off a knee
Um,
injury too.
yeah, Aaron Rodgers, $12. I would probably right. You could probably find QBs around the same time that Aaron Rodgers will go for with about the same amount of production, everything like that. Especially with his wide receiving core this year, I would just I wouldn't do Waddle or Rodgers. I would think I'd be looking at Fields or ETN. ETN has such a huge upside to him, and Justin Fields, second year quarterback, the man runs like crazy. In the last preseason game, he threw like three touchdowns in the first like quarter and a half. He looked really good. And you got your boy Darnell Mooney, Cole Kmet's supposed to be coming out. So, but he also, like I said, he could be like one of those like Jalen Hurts this year, right? Where
Yeah,
Jalen Hurts the first year wasn't very good, and then the second year, like he was like a top five quarterback.
yeah.
So
No, I agree. It's hard to gauge Justin Fields and see like where like what's his actual ceiling and everything. I mean, they talk about his ceiling, but it's like the surrounding cast, is it going to support him to be able to get to that point? It's also still the Bears, they're still pretty shitty. I'd like to see their play calling before I start hopping on them again. But I don't know, again, I feel like if you're talking about like players and their ceilings and their floors, I feel like Etienne is gonna probably pay off the most for that $10 value for Gabi. Because even you got to think it's like James Robinson, even if he's still a part of that, the Jags are probably going to be trailing most games. James Robinson's more that first and second down back, and Travis Etienne is more the pass catching back, but he can also, he can run the rock too. So I wouldn't be surprised if Etienne, surpassed it. And for $10, if he did pay off that way, I mean, that'd be like crazy value for Gabi there.
It kind of reminds me with the ETN James Robinson thing. If we look back with the Chargers when Ryan Matthews was actually really good on that team, and Austin Eckler was the backup, right? He was like the
Mm-hmm.
pass guy. Like it was only a matter of time before Austin Eckler started eating into like basically Ryan Matthews' role, and then Ryan Matthews was gone, and then Austin Eckler was like amazing. But even when Ryan Matthews was there, Eckler was still like super good in the passing game and got his. So I think that's kind of like where I'm looking at ETN, and yeah, probably with Justin Fields $4, he might go for that in the draft. So why
Yeah.
not go ETN? Take a shot in the dark. We'll see what
Yeah.
happens.
No, exactly. And I don't know. You just got to think too the draft pedigree and everything. I mean, the Jags obviously drafted him, and if he didn't get injured last year, like who knows what would have happened. So, still hard to tell,
Yeah, for
but
sure.
I think that would be the play. And last but
The
not
last
least,
one,
we got our
yeah,
champion, Jesse, $203 draft cash, and Josh Allen, $8. I mean, no brainer once
yeah.
again.
I say, yeah, this one is, yeah, I don't even know if I can touch base. Obviously, number one quarterback last 2 years. Like, dude, like, he was like the number one quarterback by like over 50 points last year. So it's like, whatever. Like,
It's
cool, keep him.
it's
There you go,
so
Jesse.
it's so annoying too doing like mock drafts because you go look at like auction values for players and everything on different sites, right? And Josh Allen is just worth so much money, but then when you go do like a mock draft in our league, just putting Allen in there for $8, it just fucks everything up and it just blows up the whole
Just like a
mock. And I'm
slap in
like,
the face.
yeah, it's like a slap in the face. I mean, it's like the same thing with Justin Jefferson. I'm just like, dude, this is so dumb. Can't wait for them to actually get
System like
cycled back
it like
in.
breaks.
Yeah.
The draft simulator just breaks. It's like what?
No, this is the
Uh,
beauty of us doing the keepers, right? It's like it adds a whole different dynamic. Because now, especially as time has gone on, it's like you're not just drafting for the current year. Like part of it too is like you're trying to set yourself up with like almost a farm system going, for the future years there. So it's very interesting to see how this has been playing out.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, that wraps up keepers and kind of, what we're looking at. And, hopefully when we talk about this and everything like that, a lot of these are ones that probably already people have seen and they're probably projecting certain things too, but maybe they'll take it into a little bit more consideration when it comes down to the draft. So now when they're doing their mocks and everything like that, they're like, oh yeah, for sure. Maybe I forgot about that guy, or maybe like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know he was going to be able to keep him and for how much. So hopefully that gives everybody a little bit more of an outlook on that beforehand. But a lot of keepers out there, a lot of good ones too. So super exciting. Sorry, Diz, you don't get one. Uh,
You got to earn that,
um,
baby.
yeah. Now, the next, let's go to the next segment. We'll talk about season outlook and everything like that. It was going to be like who's finishing where, and based off last year's standings and rankings and everything like that. But I really just want to touch base on a couple different teams here, and the ones that we're going to touch base on, I'm just going to read them off for you, Dylan. And it's really going to be people that have like, you know, in the rankings for scoring, like who was last in running back and who was first in tight end and things like that, and then also their points per game and like how many 100 points games they had too. So first one we'll talk about is we'll talk about B. Johns. Finished 6-7, Sacco runner up, basically the San Diego Bowl.
Right at
Uh,
home.
yeah, this man averaged, and like I said, even bottom of the leaderboards here and everything like that, dude still scored 90 plus points per game, so 90.67 points per game. He had 4 games of 100 plus points last year. The one thing I wanted to look at was wide receivers. This man finished last, 309.9 points total with wide receivers. So this year, I'm thinking B. John's gonna have to do a little bit more. And we just talked about one of his keepers, so that should help him out a little bit.
Yeah. It's hard to say. It's like him and COD, right? It's almost like you can pretty much guarantee that they're going to be at the bottom down there. But again, Brandon, that one year he had that like crazy season, which was so annoying because while we're drafting, he's playing video games or whatever he was doing over there.
Yeah, 11-2 when
Yeah, and set the
Lamar was
record.
MVP.
And so, um, and like his points per game weren't bad at all. Uh, but it just for Brandon, for me, it always kind of comes down to like, yes, there's the drafting aspect. You can draft like a solid team, but it's like, what do you do after that, right? As the season progresses,
Yeah.
because injuries, personnel changes, all kinds of stuff happen. So it's like, is Brandon gonna keep up his grind as we go on, or is he kind of just like in this purgatory of just like, all right, as long as I don't get the Sacco, I'm good with it. It's like,
Well, right to your point there too. If you think about it, the last 2 years, Bijan's been bottom free agent pickups, bottom of the free agent pickups. And last year he only had 19 free agent pickups. This man was last in wide receivers, and he only picked up 19 people. How many of those were wide receivers? Who knows? But wasn't a lot.
yeah, no, exactly. I mean, it's a, with fantasy, and they talk about this all the time. It's like you win. It's a week by week sort of situation, right? And that's just the one thing with Brandon. It's like, are you just looking at the full season and just like, cool, I'm good with what I got, or are you like continuously trying to switch it up? And yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, like you said, the free agents there, yeah, it's tough to stay competitive if you're not like out there putting that work in and week out.
No, for sure. And correlation between both of these San Diegans, or San Diegans, whatever it is. I don't really know.
The
But
Will's
anyways,
vagina.
between those two, you look at this, between the last 2 years, Brandon picked up 10 less free agents last year than he did the year prior. And Cody picked up 25 less free agents last year than he did the year prior to that. Both of these guys dropped in free agent pickups, and they both ended up in the Sacco and were bottom of the league in points per game. So, like, what kind of to your point, right? Oh, I'm drafting, but then in the middle of the year, are you just not trying to better your team? Are you looking into anything? Like, you have to make some kind of moves because it's not one. Your draft's never. I mean, your league's never won in the draft, right? It's about the moves you make afterwards.
Yeah,
So a
almost
lot
like
of
they
it
have
has
it.
to come down to what are you going to do throughout the season. It's just like in the NFL, right? You might start out with one quarterback or something like that, or maybe the one running back, and then halfway through the season, you're like, oh, this guy actually had a good game. I'm going to change it up a little bit. You got to do the same thing in fantasy.
Yeah, no doubt. It's almost like they have a gentleman's agreement down there to just like, hey, let's just make sure that we get through the season, but like one of us is
Yeah,
gonna
for
get it.
sure.
So
Yeah. Let's go to the next person I want to talk about, and that's gonna be Gare. So finished 6-7, out of the playoffs. Gare, it's unfamiliar territory. Scored 91.11 points per game, so a little bit over the league average. 500 plus point games. Um, Now, there's two things to look at here. First, he was last in tight end ranking, and then he was also first in defensive scoring. So he had one of the best. He had the best defense in the league on the team, but he also had the worst luck with tight ends, or just basically didn't get a really good tight end.
um yeah, which is it's kind of interesting to me because usually Gare's always been more like a defensive streaming kind of guy. Like I never really
Yeah, and
forget.
he got Travis Kelce when you remember that
Yeah, I do remember
he
that.
wanted that Travis Kelce. That was
Yeah. Um and 500 plus games is still pretty good, I would say. But yeah, for Garrett, it's like, I don't know, and maybe it's kind of like a testament with me and stuff too, but it's like with the auction and everything, it changes the dynamic so much and like how we got used to it for so long in the snake draft. Now here we are in the auction, and you see like the league like shifting as far as like who's on, who's in the upper echelon, who's kind of like
mm-hmm.
slid to the bottom and stuff. Um, because of recent memory, Gary hasn't really done what we like always expected from Gary. It's always like, oh, Gary is always gonna be like towards the top and everything. It's like we got to take him down because we don't want him getting more championships. And now it's kind of like he's falling off a little bit in the back burner. And seeing him do the trade for Debo and stuff. I mean, he's still active. That's the thing about it. It's like I know the man's still trying out there, still putting in the research and the effort. It just hasn't
Hmm.
quite paid off.
Yeah, no,
It
for sure.
could just be like one of those things too, where it's just like you just need to tweak couple different things that you're doing. Maybe Garrett jumps back up there, but just like for myself, until you see that happen, here we are at the bottom. So here we sit.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Now, the next guy I want to talk about, and this is a very interesting one, and it's Sweet Baby J, Jaden, finished 7-7, made the playoffs, 96.82 points per game. So one of the higher scorers in the league, right there up in the middle tier. Six 100 plus point games, which we keep talking about this. There's a lot of 100 point plus games last year. Like that's the one thing. We'll talk about somebody later on who had the most. And but there's a lot of them. But we look at this wide receiver, so it was like the best wide receiver class that we've seen. Jaden literally was carried, like literally packed up all of his shit on a wagon and had Justin Jefferson just pulling that man all the way to the finish.
Ja'Marr Chase,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, Jamar Chase, both of those guys. And then, but he was first, 609.8 points. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And then QB, he was last with 246. And then running backs, he was last with 317. So if we look at this, if this man could have got a solid quarterback or a solid running back, he could have won a championship. But also, one thing I want to think about this too, Jaden is not the most active when it comes to trading. He could have traded one of those. He could have tried to package up a deal or something like that to try to get a nice running back.
Right.
Um, because one running back and this man could have made it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, the one thing I appreciate about Jaden, and I've noticed this since he's joined the league, is that he kind of goes against the norm as far as like strategy goes, right? I've always seen Jaden kind of like doing something a little bit different than what everybody else is doing. And I mean, me and him had that battle in the championship a couple years ago. Um, and so it's like he's found success, right? It's like he's done well for himself as far as like implementing these different strategies. Again, it's kind of like what I was talking about with Garrett. It's like maybe just like to your point, if you would have made like a little more trades, or I don't know about free agents, but just like tweaked like a little bit of your strategy there as the season went on. It's like who knows what you could have done, right? Because yeah, even if you would have kept Justin Jefferson and say you did get that like solid running back, and then maybe like downgrade your wide receivers just a little bit, you're still getting production from your wide receivers so much. It's like, man, I don't know, coulda, woulda, shoulda, I guess at that point. But
Yeah,
I'll be real curious to see if
I,
Jaden tries to keep the trend going as far as like, because I know this man loves his wide receiver. So is he going to just try to build on that,
yeah,
or again, does he change the strategy a little bit?
yeah. No, and one thing to point out is that Jaden did have 24. He had 24 more free agents last year that he added than he did the previous year. So he was a lot
Mm,
more. He was a lot more engaged when it came into the free agency, but also at the same time, he actually made a trade last year. One of the least amount of trades that this guy, you know, he had zero in 2020. So he did he made some moves and everything like that. But maybe if he would have just got one running back, he could have been right up there in the ship.
yeah.
Um, Next one, let's look at Nut. He was 7-7, made the playoffs. Obviously, he averaged over 100 points per game. He had 500 plus point games. But the one thing that makes and the reason why I'm laughing is because I remember all the comments he made last year about how his kickers sucked ass and how every defense he picked up was always last each week in scoring. And it's no surprise that he was last in kicker points and last in defense points. So I don't really know if there's much to talk about with that, right? We've already discussed this man is he's an he's one of the he's one of the gatekeepers when it comes to looking at you know the statistics and deciding to go based off of there's a lot of people out there just go with names and or people that go with like
Hmm.
upside, but maybe not looks into things a little bit differently than that we don't. So one of the more analytical guys, and he still did really well, and he averaged over 100 points per game last year. Probably we can give a little bit of credit to Cooper Cup there.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so not much to say. Like we're not obviously you don't think we're not going to think too much of him drafting a kicker or drafting a defense, right?
No, I would chalk this up to just luck. Just
Yeah.
like with fantasy, right? A lot of it is strategy and research and how much you put into it. But you know, his luck with those kickers and that defense last year was insane. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, he just couldn't seem to land in, which is so weird to me because I feel like a kicker is almost one of those things where it's like you just, oh, I can just pick this guy up and he's probably gonna give me like what 9 points or something like that, like something solid.
Yeah,
But
this man was getting like 4 or 5 maybe.
yeah, literally, and I'm sure it cost me some games and everything too, which is just icing on the cake there.
Yeah. Um, all right, we'll speed through this a little bit faster, but Caden, he's up next, 8-6. Obviously finished in third place last year. Had he killed it. 103.98 points per game. This man scored the most 100-point games with 9, and he was first in running back. So go JT, go Jonathan Taylor. That's all I got to say. And
Yeah,
then obviously Devontae Adams getting picked up later on in the year. That helped him out too. But
didn't he
this
have
man,
Christian
he was
McCaffrey
on a
last year
tear.
too?
He did. He did have Christian. He also had Gus Edwards.
Man, and Elijah Mitchell. Damn.
Yeah. Gus Edwards gone for the year. Obviously, he was supposed to take over that starting spot. And then, yeah, Elijah Mitchell, Christian McCaffrey goes down. This man could have took the league by storm.
Yeah. Excuse me. No, and you think about like having Jalen Hurts on his team too. Um, yeah, I think 900 plus point games. I mean, that's pretty insane. Typically, if you were to look at this, like if we didn't know, if you couldn't see who the champion was, you would just look at these statistics, be like, okay, there's your champion right there. Especially running backs, like the premier position that you want to be leading the league in. Um, Yet again, I mean, I think it's like, and he was active in trades, but it's just kind of like the hell to Christian McCaffrey, just some bad luck falling his way towards the end there. And I mean, you know, it also helped too. I think that we have had some players, you know, start with like $250 in draft cash and haven't really seen anybody, you know, take the league by storm with it. And I think Caden had an opportunity to do that last year, just fell short. And so again, it's just
Yeah,
no
for sure.
guarantee having that much money. You just buy that championship and win it all, you know?
Completely agree. I think he did a really good job drafting last year, and he had a really good keeper in Gus Edwards. And I think he made some acquisitions during the season. You know, it just couldn't finish it off. But yeah, you're right. Running back, that's what we want. You want the best running back core, and this man did, and he would have even a better one if Christian McCaffrey was there. He would have Christian McCaffrey and Jonathan Taylor. That would have been insane.
Yeah, it would have been
Um,
too juicy.
yeah. Um, Now next one, Mitch, 10-4. He was the runner-up last year. So like now we're going from Caden, who's scoring 100, almost 104 points per game. We're dropping down to Mitch right here. Made it there, so made an improbable run. This man won 8 straight games. Really good season by Mitch. Gobby's looking stronger and stronger every year, but now he scored only 96.76 points per game. He had 5 100 plus games. He was also first in kickers. So but if you look at this, it's kind of crazy. If you look at it, you look at Nut, you look at Caden. These guys are scoring over 100 plus points per game. They're having either the same or more 100 plus point games. Um, Mitch still made it. He made it, and he won 8 straight games to get to that point. Do you call it luck or do you call it skill? I would call it skill. He's gotten better every year.
Yeah. No, I thought Gobby had a pretty solid draft last year. And again, you know, just grinding and playing that week by week basis there throughout the season. I thought he did a good job with that. And it's like kind of to your point, you know, five 100 plus point games. And then you have people like Peyton and Cal. Peyton had 8 100 plus point games and Cal had 7 100 plus point games, but you know, still couldn't get to that championship and everything. So I think with Gobby, as time has gone on, as we progressed each year, just like how Jaden is, I feel like, and again, just a testament to everybody's competitive levels here. It's like I think Gobby's like kind of got a like solid idea of how he wants to draft, how he wants to play his team throughout the year, and that's what set him up to be able to get into that championship last year. So unfortunately, he ran into the steamroller of Jesse.
Yeah, in which we will get to now. Jesse finished 8-6 and was the champion last year. This man's went to back-to-back championship games, riding the coattails of old Josh Allen there, and It's a true testament that if you have a number one quarterback that's outscoring everybody else's quarterback by 50 plus points over the whole season, it's really good. But also, Jesse, the one thing that I've always wondered, a lot of people don't put a lot of emphasis on tight ends. This man was a lineman in college, and he loves the big boys. And he was first in tight ends last year, and I feel like he's always at the top of the list. And he finished with 242.9 points at tight end, and then first in QB with 405.26. But he also averaged an unprecedented 108 points per game. That's ridiculous, and obviously well deserved to be a champion.
Yeah, no doubt. I think Jesse, talking about like locking in your formula going into these auction drafts, I think Jesse knows exactly what he likes to do, how he wants to construct his team, and he sets himself up well from the beginning, right? And it just kind of takes off with it. And he even bought or fought off some attrition last year with Derrick Henry going down. But he just drafted so well and was able to maintain his squad to the point where he won a championship from it. And that's one of the harder things too. You reach that championship and you lose it, and it's like, man, when am I ever going to get back here and everything? And Jesse was able to go back to it, and shoot, man. I mean, talking about the first back-to-back champion, but we could have had a second back-to-back champion, just based off what Jesse's doing. So, all eyes are on you, Jess.
Yeah, I think it's wild, and I think I 100% agree. Jesse goes in with the formula, man. And whatever magazine he's picking up, we need to figure out who's issuing it.
I need to be subscribing right now.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm about to get the issue expedited to me.
No, for real. And I, love Jesse. As soon as he gets his magazine, let everybody watch out.
Yeah,
and it's like, all right, he's going for the tight ends.
Yeah, Jesse, I hope you take like another 140 milligrams of edibles right before the draft, so it throws you off a little bit.
Yeah. All right. Well, I just want to touch base on a couple different teams and the season outlook, and kind of just looking back at last season and just talking about like their success and what we think is the reason why they were successful or where they were at inside of the standings and why they finished where they finished. But let's go on to. I just want to touch base a little bit. We won't go over this whole section, but I just went through the Nut Report. I just scavenged a little bit. Shout out Nut, like literally all the stats and everything I picked up on this. The majority of it's from Nut Report. So, if you haven't checked it out this year, obviously everybody has. Dizzle, I'm talking to you. Check it out, because I told you the other night that this will give you a good insight on some things to think about. But I want to look at waivers and trades, and I just want to see, is the league moving more or is it moving less? What are the results? Like, what's going on here? We already touched base on, some of the people trading more, trading less, picking up more free agents, not picking up so many free agents. But the differential in trades from 2020 to 2021, there was 25 less trades last year than the year prior. So we had 82 in 2020. We had 57 in 2021. Now, what do you think the results are of that? Because last year we had one of the most competitive, playoff run races, and there was less trades done last year. Is it better to hold on to your players, or maybe we should stray away from pushing people to be like, let's trade more, to being like, hey, maybe this makes sense. Let's keep our players.
Yeah, I think everybody's a lot more savvy now, right? I think everybody's got a pretty good beat on drafting and how they like to manage their team throughout the season. But I really think it just comes down to like people's drafting abilities. I think everybody's just been setting themselves up where they feel like they don't need to trade as much. And you would think it's kind of interesting. The way I would kind of see it is like with the auction draft dollars, that there would be kind of like more trades happening because you have the ability to throw money into it now. There's a whole different dynamic to it, but you don't really see that happen as much. So honestly, I just chalk it up to everybody's drafting really well, and they like the teams that they're going with, and they stick with it.
Yeah, I also think that the trading and draft cash is a big thing now. I think people are holding on to their players until like it's like do or die, right?
Yeah.
Like it's like, okay, now I know I'm not going to make the playoffs, right? I'm going to play a strategy game, and I'm going to try to sell these players for as much as draft cash as I can. I did that last year. It worked out for me. For most people, right? You're just doing it to build up for the next year. So I think that is one of the biggest things. But just touching base, like most trades last year in 2021 was Nut. That was 4 more than you did the year previous. And the least amount of trades in 2021 was a tie. Jaden, Cody, and Jesse. And they only had one each. So That's probably a big reason because Cody had 6 less trades last year than he did the year before, and Jesse had 4 less trades than he did the year prior in 2020.
Yeah.
So probably the reason why it diminished a little bit. I think it is, like you said, a little bit more savvy, and then also I think people are waiting to make that draft cash right before the trade deadline happens because last year there was a lot of movement right before then.
Yeah, because I think I mean just kind of touching on that a little bit more. It's like you don't want to like trade your players too early, because you know until you see what kind of projection you're looking at for the rest of your season. Because it's like, yeah, maybe I could trade this player for like these two players or this player over here, but if you feel like you're not going to make it at all, it's like I'd rather hold on to that guy and be able to liquidate him for more money and get some like boo boo players coming back or whatnot.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
but also just kind of throw that like just for the actual numbers there. So Nut had 9 trades. Jaden, Cody, and Jesse with the least amount of trades at 1. Just so you guys know the actual numbers.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so a lot less trades last year, but then we look at the differential on free agents from 2020 to 2021. We're looking at plus 20. So people are picking up more players. And I think that has to do with there was a lot of injuries last year to key players. I think a lot of movement had to be made. So we had 951 acquisitions last year, or sorry, 951 in 2020, and now we had 971 in 2021. So we had an increase of 20. Um, that was obviously a big thing. There's a lot of people that picked up in free agency, and a lot of them were at the very end of the year too, right? Where people were picking up free agents that they could possibly keep as keepers, Travis Etienne, those kind of guys, and everything like that. Cam Akers, they were already out, but might as well add them on there and see if I can get them keep for $10 next year. Um, but yeah, most free agents last year picked up Brian 175. That was 54 more than he had the year prior to that. 121. That's an astronomical amount. Brian, like I don't know. I don't know how Nut keeps track of all those numbers, but that's a lot of free agents. But the least amount of free agents, because look at this gap. We have Brian at 175, right? Least amount of free agents picked up in 2021. Old B Johns with 19. Dude, that is ridiculous. That's like
That
what,
is
like a
crazy.
156 difference. And B Johns, he had 29 picked up in 2020, so he had 10 less last year than he did the year prior to that. And Brian was in the middle of the pack right there, and B Johns was down in the shitter. So, um, like we talked about earlier, it's pretty simple. You
Sitting
don't
on the
win your
fence.
season at the draft because we see plenty of times people pick up players in the middle of the year. Elijah Mitchell's a good one. But it's
I
just
just
like,
have a funny
dude,
image in my head of COD wearing that toilet seat and Brandon just sitting on it.
dude, it just literally goes from one bathroom to the next or one bedroom to the next down there.
COD's Brandon's personal bidet.
God. So yeah, I just want to look at that real quick to see what's going on, year to year, and if we're moving more, if we're moving less, and stuff like that. More free agents, obviously, but less trades. Um,
Yeah. Well, I think
and
there's
then
also,
what?
sorry, not to cut you off, but just more free agents. Again, I think it's just because people are being more savvy as the season goes on, right? I think it's why we're not getting as many trades because people think they can make up for that production through free agent pickups.
Hmm,
Probably why
makes
we're
sense.
seeing a little more of that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, if we wrap up that segment there, one thing I pulled up too, because I was just kind of curious when I was looking at this, and obviously we have Dizzle, our newest league member here, and I just wanted to see like what new league members their first season coming into it, what their record is. How do people perform coming into their first year? And so compiled everybody that I could really remember and pulled up from the Nut Report. Shout out again, Nut. So first seasons going down the list here, Caden in 2019 pulled a 5-7-1 record. The tie there is really interesting to me, but yeah, losing record. Yeah, Mitch that came in 2016, 8-5, so that was actually pretty solid. Neil, our buddy Neil, in 2013, 5-8.
Swish, baby.
Yeah, and then yourself, Red, in 2013, came in at 5-8. I'll
Hey,
never.
wait, Okay, I didn't even realize that I was there because it was you have it as red instead of like my actual name, so I was like wondering who that was. But hey, I just want to say 2014 I won the ship. So yeah.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
fair. I think that 2013 too is when you drafted Tom Brady in the first round.
yeah,
Yeah. And then we have Swin came in 2012, at 7-6, which Swin kind of came in like took the league by storm. Um, and then Jaden who also came in at 2012, 4-9 record. So kind of interesting to look at it. It's kind of a mixed bag, more losing records than we have winning records. So Diz, the pressure is on, man. See what you can
yeah,
do.
for sure.
Draft all those Raiders for us.
Yeah, yeah, get them out of the way. Um, but yeah, no, for sure. Well, I say I think a solid start to obviously Wilson time for the beginning of the year and everything like that. We welcomed Diz. We looked at to see what's going to be happening. We looked at everybody's keepers and also kind of a season outlook from last year and kind of where they finish and why they finish, but also at the same time we looked at trades and waivers and everything like that to kind of see if the league is shifting, and then also Dizzle, we'll see what you do with your first year. Um, but besides that, obviously, right, we're super excited for the draft house. It's
Yeah.
like right now we're getting past. It's almost 12 o'clock, and so we're almost less than 4 days away. But it's gonna be a great time. I love the draft, and this year, first time since Mount Hood that we had all 15 members. So I'm super excited. I'm super excited to see everybody there. Um, I really just want to see Nuts hair in person. Um,
Will the real nut please
uh,
stand up?
yeah, exactly. So I'm super excited, and I think golf should be fun. I think the draft's going to be awesome. Um, but also go Georgia Bulldogs, baby. Saturday, let's go.
Get that out of here, bud. No, I'm excited to see everybody. It's like Mount Hood was probably one of the better drafts I think that we've ever had. Um, it's just like we don't have any like distractions as far as cities go or anything kind of. It's just us, right? And so I'm excited for us to be playing around in the house and hopefully nobody drowns in the lake, but we got a couple ex lifeguards there, so hopefully somebody could save us. But uh, and then on top of that too, I'm just excited to try to reclaim glory. I feel like a lot of people have been shitting on me for the my track record over the last couple of years, so it's time to revamp that. But no, it's gonna be a good time. I'm just excited to see everybody.
For sure. Me too. Well, I think that wraps up episode one. So besides that, see you guys later. Obviously, we'll see you in Prineville on is that
Friday,
what is it? The third, fourth,
second.
second? I don't even know. I'm losing track of time. Like
Yeah,
I'm
make
just
sure you
ready
show up
for
there on time, bud. Yeah, no, it's been a pleasure, guys. Can't wait to do this more. Can't wait to do some more shit talking throughout the year. And yeah, we'll be out here.
for sure. All right.
Later, guys.